Okay, shalom. Right, going to hopefully answer this question. When does the Torah-based day begin? There is some controversy. It's actually a very ancient controversy. We're going to have a look at some ancient sources. Let's just go have a look at this. Okay, so there's a text that's available online. I wanted to show you this so that, people can make full use of what's available to them actually online. This is a book called the Sabbath Epistle, and it's free online at safaria.org, which is an absolutely fantastic resource for Torah-based texts. Okay, so this particular epistle was composed in London in 1159 of the Common Era. Okay, so it's a medieval document, and it's talking about debates as to when the day begins. So the particular rabbi breaks it down into 3 sections, and it tells you that he's had a dream and things like that, and it was instructed by the Shabbat to defend the Shabbat, obviously, because if you don't get the time of the day right, if you believe in that the timing of the day begins at dawn, then you're going to desecrate the actual Shabbat if the Shabbat starts at dusk. Okay, so he goes through 3 gates. The first one, the beginning of the year, which is absolutely brilliant. Then the beginning of the month, again, it's wonderful stuff. And then on the beginning of the day, when the day begins according to Torah. So you can go and have a look at all that. We're just going to have a look at this. Now, in this particular lesson, I'm not going to go through the usual debates, like it says in Yom Kippur that you're to keep the fast from evening until evening, because most people who've decided that the day begins at dawn know all those arguments. So this does actually go through all those arguments. Okay. But I'm not going to concentrate on that because I just think there's a really beautiful example from the scriptures that just highlights the progression of the day perfectly, and it's taken from here, 2 Kings chapter 7. Also in scripture, this day is a day of tidings if we wait until the morning light. We're going to go see how this particular chapter highlights the progression of a day. Okay, and what that progression of the day looks like. So that's what I'm going to base this lesson on. So first of all, let's go and have a look at this. This is another resource that you can access online. This is Chabad.org, the Complete Jewish Bible. So it's got the Hebrew and the English, and it's also, if you do want, you can get some of the commentary by Rashi in there. I am going to read through this entire chapter. I'm just going to give you a brief outline. So the first verse is, and Elisha said, hearken to the word of the Lord. So has the Lord said, at this time tomorrow, a seah of fine flour will sell for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley will sell for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. And the king's officer, upon whose hand he would lean, answered the man of God and said, behold, if the Lord makes windows in the sky, will this thing come about? And he said, behold, you will see with your own eyes, but you shall not eat therefrom. Okay, so hopefully people know the story. And it says, Now there were 4 men stricken with Tzaharath, which is leprosy, at the entrance of the gate, and they said to each other, why are we sitting here until we die? If we say that we will come into the city with the famine in the city, we will die there, and if we stay here, we will die. So now let us go and let us defect to the Aramean camp. If they spare us, we will live, and if they kill us, we will die. So hopefully people are aware of this story. They're sat outside the camp because they've got leprosy. They're going to die of starvation in the city because the city is besieged and they have no food in the city. Okay, so these lepers are going to wander off to the Aramean camp because even if they kill us, they're going to die anyway, but there is a chance that they may spare their life. So here it says, and they arose in the evening to come to the Aramean camp, and they came to the edge of the Aramean camp, and behold, no one was there. The word for in the evening is Nashef. Okay, so, and they rose in the evening to come to the Aramean camp. So they set off from outside the besieged city, where there's the famine inside, to go defect to the Aramean camp in the evening. neshef. Usually this is actually translated as twilight, and we are going to go look at a verse from Proverbs that indicates another progression of another progression of the day that includes this word neshef, and it is translated as twilight in that instance. So now the Lord has caused the Aramean camp to hear the sound of chariots and the sound of horses, the sound of a great army. And they said to one another, Behold, the king of Israel has hired for us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to attack us. And they picked themselves up and they fled at dusk. So again, it's exactly the same words as the almost exactly the same words. The first three words are exactly the same words as the lepers. They picked themselves up and in the evening, and these also at the same time they picked themselves up and fled in the evening. Okay, so we've got that same at twilight, leaving behind their tents, horses, their donkeys, the camp as it was, and they fled for their lives. Okay, so then the lepers go into the tent, into the camp, and realise that the Arameans have gone. Okay. Now these Mesoraim came up to the edge of the camp, entered one tent, ate and drank, and carried off from their silver, gold, and clothing. And they went and hid them, and they returned and entered another tent, and carried off from there, and they went and hid them. Okay, so bearing in mind, this is at the evening, the twilight, that they've set off, and then they've arrived sometime after the twilight. Now one said to another, We are not doing right. This day is a day of good news, yet we are keeping quiet. If we wait until daybreak, we will incur guilt. Now let us go and come and relate this in the king's palace. So they've called this time where the sun has set twilight in the evening. They've called that day. This day is a day of good news. They set off at twilight, so by now they've got to the Aramean camp. They've already gone into the tents and into another tents, and then they've figured out, hang on, just wait a minute, we shouldn't be doing that. This day is a good day, a day of good news. So we can understand by this time we've entered into the evening. They've fled from the city, they've gone to the camp, they've looked around, they've buried things, carried them off clothing and went and hidden them, and then returned and entered another time. So we're talking about a time frame that's going to take us beyond twilight and beyond sunset. Okay, so this day is a day of good news. So they're calling it this day is a day of good news, yet we are keeping quiet. If we wait until daybreak, we will incur guilt. So to them, the daybreak is part of the day, but if they wait until that part of the day, they'll incur guilt. Now let us go and come and relate this to the king's palace, which they do. Okay, so they go to the king's palace. I'm not going to go through all of that now. That when the king, it says, and the king arose at night. Lila. So by the time they've then gone back to the city and gone to the gatekeepers and then on to the king's palace, okay, the king arose at night. So we see the progression, haven't we? We've gone from twilight through to the evening, and now we're at night. By the time they've done this, it's got to the night. It's the king. So the king rose at night. They came to relate this story, and it got to the night. So I'm just emphasising these. So there's a progression involved. Now I will tell you what the Arameans have done to us. They know that we are hungry, so they left the camp to hide in the field, saying, when they come out of the city, we will seize them alive and enter the city. So he's coming up with a theory. But in and amongst all those, I hope you can understand there's a progression involved where the day, they call the day, this day is a day of good news, yet we know they are talking in the evening. By the time they are saying this is the evening after the sun has set. So day is evening, and then we see the progression. If we wait until daybreak, they haven't said if we wait until the next day or if we wait until tomorrow. They've said in this day, but if we wait in this day, which is of good news, until the day breaks, we will incur guilt. Okay. So let's go and have a look at some of these numbers. Hopefully, just going back to this, where is it? Yeah, let's just go back to this Shabbat. I really encourage people to go through that, because this is, like I say, these are ancient controversies, and these controversies seem to have reared their ugly head again, and causing a lot of Torah-based believers in Yeshua to depart from the true beginning of the year, the true beginning of the month, and the true beginning of the day, and go towards solar calendars and the day beginning at dawn and the months based on this set, something to do with the vernal equinox and things like that. This particular epistle covers everything that I've just talked about: the beginning of the year, the beginning of the month, and the beginning of the day. The beginning of the year is obviously the most technical, because it goes through the entire of the the equinoxes and all the complicated calculations of that you need in order to determine the beginning of the day, or in order to argue against the controversies. So I encourage people to go and have a look at that and read through for yourselves. Don't just go on what I have said. However, let's go and have a look at some Gematria now. Okay, so I did point out that we're going to bring up this verse from Proverbs 7:9, and basically you've got the same word be-neshef as they set off at this time, twilight, in the twilight. And then even here you've got the reference to the evening being the day, because you've got be-neshef, which is twilight, be-erev yom, in the evening of the day. Be'erev yom. Just let's go back there. Be'erev yom. Be'ishon laila we'afela. So that's talking about, like, the Ishon is the pitch dark, the pitch of the night and darkness, really. That's how it should be, in the pitch of the night and darkness. This word Ishon is like the pupil of the eye. Okay, so we know how dark the pupil of the eye is, and this is referring to that point of night which is as dark as the pupil of the eye, and then we'afela. So that's also talking about the darkness. Okay, so again you can see a progression: twilight, evening, blackest of the night, and darkness. Okay, so there's a progression even there. And then, like I say, there's an instance here where you're called in the evening of the day. Be'erev yom, in the evening of the day. So the evening is part of the day. Okay, let's have a look what else we've got then. So these are just what I've pulled out time-wise to indicate. So these are 3 verses taken from that chapter that we've just had a look at: 2 Kings 7:7, 2 Kings 7:9, 2 Kings 7:12, and I've just highlighted it. They fled at dusk, be-neshef. Okay, this day is a day of good news, yet we are keeping quiet if we wait until daybreak. So I've pointed that out: ad or haboka, until the light of the morning. Okay, we will incur guilt. And then the king rose at night. So I've just highlighted those points that are highlighted there that show the progression of the day, and also that the evening and the twilight is part of that day. Okay, I just want to have a look at some Gematria though, because I thought it was very interesting, and I can't really that's what I enjoy doing. I like to look at the numbers. So I've picked out this bit: until morning light. This day is a day of good news, yet we are keeping quiet if we wait until daybreak. So ad or light, until ad or light haboka, of the morning. So it's got 588 plus 93, and 93 is actually the Mispar Gadol of Moshiach ben David ordinal. So Moshiach ben David is normally 82, but when you do the Mispar Gadol, when the nun of Ben is, because it's at the end of the letter, it changes to what's called a Sophite letter. It changes form and it changes number also, or you can change the number to a Mispar Gadol, a big numbering. So for the ordinal big numbering, Moshiach ben David comes to 93, and it's also Melech Moshiach, the ordinal of Melech Moshiach is also 93. Okay, so very interesting that. All these numbers are absolutely in the phenomenal. This one's another phenomenal one, but we're not going to be having a look at it all, obviously. So it comes to 588 regular, 93 ordinary, 681 and filled. So each letter as it sounds, the Ayin, Daleth, Aleph, Vav, Resh, all the letters as they sound. So filled, they come to 2,311, and the squared ordinal of each letter. So each letter squared as it occurs in the order within the alphabet. So the squared ordinal comes to 1,499, which is exactly the same as this. So we've got a link straight away to the very first verse of the entire Torah. Et Hashemayim wa et haaretz. Okay, from Genesis 1:1, the heavens and the earth comes to a regular of 1,499. So until the morning light. Okay, is very much connected to the concept of the heavens and the earth. Okay. Actually, in that book that I showed you, the Shabbat Epistle, it talks about the whole creation of the heavens and the earth being split into four main categories: the earth, fire, wind, and water. And then the day is split into four parts, and the seasons, the year, is split into four parts. So there's quite an interesting, right at the end of the section, the Gate 3, which talks about when does the day begin. It goes on about these four components and links that up to scripture that also highlights the fact that creation is to split into these four primary elements of fire, earth, wind and water. And obviously the heavens is fire, Shemayim, and the earth represents earth, and then you've got the water and then the wind that are also part of elements found within creation. It's quite interesting, actually. So probably that's why they've got some connection to the concept of heavens and earth, simply because the day is split into four parts. And like I say, the year too is split into four parts. And he mentions also that just as the new year, like the sabbatical year and the jubilee year, begin in Tishrei, which is equivalent to the autumn, the third part of the year. So you got spring, summer, winter, autumn. So too, the day starts at the third section of the day, which autumn is equivalent to dusk. And he makes that distinction as well. So you've got the four elements of heaven and earth, you've got the four seasons, and then you've got the four aspects of the day, and there is a connection there. So you can even see here the Gematria is a connection between the concept of until morning light. So that's going from it's really the time from dusk when he says until the morning light, isn't it? Or from midnight till morning light is one aspect of the day, and then from morning light until midday, and then midday until dusk. That's how the day is split up. So we can see that there is a connection between this and what is written in the Shabbat Epistle that brings some resolution to this controversy. Okay, so I found it interesting anyway. The 588 is related to this chesed ve'emeth. I'm just had the chet there because I'd miss it. So chesed ve'emeth, kindness and truth. So these are two of the attributes of mercy that represent the name YHWH, and everything in creation is ultimately about a revelation of his name. Every single aspect of creation, everything within the heavens and everything in the earth is designed with one purpose only, and it's to reveal the holy name YHWH. Okay, in one way or another, but everything is to ultimately reveal his name. Okay, and at this time we are in a state where his name is both revealed and concealed, and that can be likened to the light and darkness. of the light of the day and the darkness of the night. And we've got to unite those together so that we've got to transform the darkness into a revelation. We've got to transform the evil into a revelation of good. We've got to see the hidden good in even the darkness that we are confronted with in our lives. Okay, so ultimately we're just revealing the name YHWH, and these are two of the attributes of the 13 attributes of mercy, chesed wa emeth. This comes up again as well. The concept of chesed comes up. I'm going to just do an analysis and look at Jonah and how this is linked to this through here. And you will see when it comes back to this concept of kindness specifically and truth. It's our work below to reveal the truth. The truth about what? Well, the truth ultimately about the concept of the Moshiach, because through the concept, the truth about the Moshiach, we gain a revelation of the truth of the name YHWH, and specifically it's through a revelation of the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. We've got to reach a place where we can say, give the truth to Yaakov, which is Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. And we can do that even through the example of our own life, when this word, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, is completely illuminated within us. That truth of Od Yosef Chai is the truth really that reveals the name YHWH to the absolute maximum degree we can possibly reveal it. But it's not just saying the word. It's not like a magical formula, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. It's when we completely and totally understand all the ways in which YHWH has been operating in creation to bring the humanity to a place of perfection through the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, who is hidden in this exile with us, helping us to accomplish this perfection and prevent us from falling to the 50th level of impurity from which we could no longer return. All this, when we can say the words Od Yosef Chai, to the degree where that is fully revealed within us, and we can totally and utterly perceive that there's only YHWH and nothing else beside him, then this is the truth. That's the truth. That's the truth that we have to attain. Okay, and that's the truth that gets passed on to Yaakov, and that's the truth that ultimately highlights the complete sovereignty and authority of the name YHWH. It's a progression. That truth leads to the ultimate revelation, which is a revelation of the absolute sovereignty and perfection and the echad oneness of YHWH. And like I say, these two attributes are really the 13 attributes of mercy that reveal the name YHWH. So it's all about a revelation of his name. The heavens and earth reveal his name, and everything in Torah reveals his name. Ultimately, it's all and only about a revelation of his name. And then we've got this. Now the Lord God said, behold, man has become like one of us, having the ability of knowing good and evil. And now, so that comes to 1,941 regularly, 411 ordinarily. Together they come to 2,352, which is 4 times 588. Obviously, there was a problem involved in the revelation of the name YHWH. We don't now have a direct revelation of his name. We have a concealment. We have evil. We have something that is a lie that came from the serpent, who is the liar and the deceiver, that obscures that revelation of the name YHWH. And we have got to find the truth. And sometimes we've even got to transform the lies that conceal into revelation themselves. Okay, so at this point, we are not aware of the absolute sovereignty and absolute oneness and absolute perfection of the name YHWH. We see that sometimes there's good and God, and sometimes there's bad, and sometimes there's evil in the world that obscures the goodness and the glory and the absolute oneness and perfection of YHWH. Okay, so we've obviously got to transform that is stopping us from perceiving his glory and his oneness and perfection. We've got to transform it from the lie that it is into truth, which reveals his name. Okay, and it's very difficult to do that. this is what exile is. It's very difficult. It's easy for us to perceive evil, and it's sometimes hard for us to perceive perfection and goodness and oneness and authority and sovereignty. These are things that are difficult to perceive when we are suffering. Okay, so we've got to, and my teachers go on about this all the time, we've got to look beyond that. We've got to look beyond that and say and see Enod Milvador, there is nothing beside him. Okay, and even the evil is for an ultimate good. Everything is for an ultimate good, and this is when our faith comes in. Even when everything to the contrary is telling us it's bad and it's evil, and this is a bad thing, we've got to, through faith, no. Our Father cannot do anything evil and bad. There is no evil and bad in him. There's only good. The fact that it appears as evil is simply something that we have to transform through our faith and through our trust in the one that we know to be only good, that there is no evil in him whatsoever. We've got to attach to his truth, the truth about his name, in order to be able to transcend that feeling of badness and evil and to transform it from that into a revelation of his name. Okay, to draw down the light of the truth of his name into that situation, to illuminate it so that we're not suffering because we are trapped in this darkness and this evil. We've got to draw down the truth into that situation. The truth is he only does good. He's only putting us in this situation because we've got a work to do. We've got a rectification that needs to go on. We are subject to some lie that needs to be overwhelmed by the truth, and we need to draw on his name down into the situation in which we are facing and illuminate it with the truth. And the truth and his kindness, and really focus on his name, not this evil that's befallen us. This is the day that YHWH has made. So 474 is exactly the same as Da'ath, knowledge. Okay, we've had the knowledge of good and evil, and it's a tree of knowledge, isn't it? Da'ath. So 474 is exactly the same as Da'ath, knowledge, I as in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, so ultimately, even all this experience where we've got knowledge of both good and evil, until we're fully rectified, and then we only become aware of YHWH, nothing else beside him. But it is a process. But this is the day that YHWH has made. We will rejoice and be glad on it, or in it. 114 ordinal, add that together, it comes to 588. So we can see a link to all these things until the morning light. We want that day to dawn, don't we? We want to get to that place where, like right now, we're in the exile, so we're enduring the darkness, we're enduring the night, but this is what leads us to that final revelation of the morning light. But we can't, there's a purpose in this darkness, and there's a purpose in the evil, because without the darkness there is no light. And that's why the Torah was given in the wilderness, and it talks about a wilderness full of scorpions and venomous snakes and stuff like that. It's because it's only in those situations of testing do we truly and absolutely understand the Torah. And what is the Torah? The Torah is ultimately a revelation of the name YHWH. Okay, so only in those situations of darkness and testing and hardship and suffering do we really truly find the light of the name YHWH. Okay. Yerushalayim, so 588, this is the place where, the glory of YHWH fills the entire earth. And if we have eyes, we can perceive that. Eyes to see, we can perceive that. We can perceive it through faith. We can perceive it through being near to the name YHWH, drawing near to the name YHWH. We were able to perceive this truth that the entire world is filled with his glory, and there's nothing else beside him. Okay, so the entire world is filled with his glory, and this is undeniable, and this will be finally revealed to us, that there's only him and nothing else beside. Once we've gone through that process of rectification, that's what we'll ultimately all be able to perceive. The knowledge of the glory of YHWH will fill the earth as the waters cover the sea. Okay, so it will be revealed to us. But we've got to always remember that his glory fills the entire of the earth. The place where he chooses to place his name is Jerusalem, Jerusalem, in Jerusalem. Okay, so there is a distinction. He can't help but fill the entire world with his glory. This is just his nature. When he hides this. This is hidden from us. We're not able to perceive it. But the place where he actually chooses to rest his name is Jerusalem. So this is wonderful, and the fact that it's related to all this is glorious. It's all good. Okay, shortness of breath, and because of their hard labour. So this was us in exile, isn't it? This is going back to that concept that there's no there's no light without darkness. This horrendous situation where they had shortness of breath, which is like anxiety, just severe stress to the point where you can hardly breathe. Because of their hard labour, they had not even time to breathe. These taskmasters were whipping them up that hard and forcing them to do such hard labour that they couldn't even hardly breathe. This is a situation, it's an horrific situation to be in, that the stress is to such a degree that your body can't even breathe properly anymore. 1,176. So that is 2 times 588, and we're really wanting to transform that. Where we're exiled from the name YHWH and the revelation of his glory, that we're really under the yoke of the slave master and the taskmaster, and we can't get free from his clutches. We can't get free from these feelings of evil pursuing us and dominating over us, and we feel like we're the tail and not the head. We're in a real state of darkness and suffering and exile. We've got to remember that YHWH, this is not the final plan. This is just a process to bring us to all these places where we're able to dominate over the perception of evil with the revelation of his name. Okay, we really want to see that morning light arise, don't we? And we want that goodness to overwhelm this horrendous evil, that we've experienced. Okay, and so this whole what we're analysing now, getting it right. There's a purpose in the darkness, but the purpose of the darkness is ultimately to lead on to that revelation of the morning light. Right, I've put here, let's go and have a look at this number. So, until the morning light is filled, and that's, like I say, each letter as it sounds, Ayin, Daleth, Aleph, all filled out. I comes across this loads. Okay, not quite gone to plan. Okay, let's see if this works now. So, we've got this verse. Those who keep worthless futilities abandon their kindness. Bearing in mind what we've just looked at, the kindness and truth is linked to this until the morning light, or until the light of the morning, or daybreak as it's called. So this is the Mispar Gadol of 2311, which is exactly the same as the filled out Ad or Haboka, the light of the morning. Okay, the light of the morning, what we've just been looking at. So that is linked directly to until the morning light, or until the daybreak. Okay, and again we've got this mention of kindness, but they've abandoned their kindness. What is the kindness? The kindness is a revelation of the name YHWH. Okay, Chesed wa Emeth, that's one of the 13 attributes of mercy. So the 13 attributes of mercy are basically the 13 attributes through which the name YHWH is fully and completely revealed. And there's a version of his name revealed within the letter of the law, the Torah of Moshiach, and the version of his name revealed above the letter of the law, taken from the Book of Micah, chapter 7, which are 13 attributes of mercy above the letter of the law, and that's the Torah of Moshiach ben Yosef, and those two sticks need to be brought together as one stick in the hand of Moshiach ben David. Okay, so that's how that verse is connected. However, we're going to have a look at this, and this, because it's just interesting. So this is Yosef filled, okay, when the Samech is spelt this way, Samech Mem Chet. Sometimes it's filled Samech Mem Chaf, okay, Samech. But anyway, this is when it's filled this way. So Yosef filled, it's got the exact same Gematria. This is the regular Gematria. So 1191, exactly the same as this. So we know that this is linked to a concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, because everything to do with Yosef is. 228, exactly the same as the ordinal for this entire verse that's taken from the book of Jonah. And the entire book of Jonah is basically helping us to understand that concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, how Jonah has to descend into the belly of the whale, and then, the whale spits him out. And there's all kinds of analogies to be made. Jonah asleep in the ship is like our descent into the body, and then thrown over and swallowed by the whale is like our descent into death. It's all about talking about the soul who has to come down and fulfill a mission in life, in life, whilst our soul is within a body. Okay, and we've all got a mission, and that mission is to ultimately do some rectification that will bring about a revelation of the name YHWH. Okay, so the entire concept of Moshiach ben Yosef is linked to the entire story of Jonah, and even Yeshua said, the only sign I'll give a wicked and adulterous generation is the sign of Jonah. And anybody who listens to my teachings, that comes up all the time. Okay, so we've got the same ordinal and the same regular. Just to bear in mind that 228 is 4 times HaMoshiach, the ordinal of HaMoshiach, which is 57. 4 times 57. And then we've got this, when Yosef made himself known to his brothers. So this is part of that cycle of revealing Moshiach ben Yosef, Od Yosef Chai. Yosef is still alive, okay, and how it's linked to this concept, and then that until the daybreak. So I hope you can start to appreciate we need to resolve the controversies regarding when does the year start, when does the month start, when does the day break, because hidden in the truth of those beginnings is a revelation of Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, and without that we will never be able to fully perceive the name YHWH. Okay, so it's very, very important. We've got to understand all these processes and how they're all linked, and the significance of it all. Okay, 1419 is linked to that. This is the regular, and this is the Mispar Gadol. Okay, the Mispar Gadol numberings. And if we added the ordinals up together, they come to 191. And that's linked to the 4 names in the Talmud that are the Moshiach is called 4 names in the Talmud. Shiloh, I'll start with Menachem, Shiloh, Yinon, and Hanina. And the ordinals of those names comes to 191. Okay, and also the curse by which Yeshua or Moshiach ben Yosef is cursed, Yimach Shemo Zikro, it comes to 643 regular, and it comes to 121 ordinal, and together they come to 764, which is 4 times 191. And I go through that teaching all the time. What is that indicating to us? It's indicating to us that the rabbis left a coded message in the Talmud to say the name of the Mashiach, and those 4 names of Mashiach, the initial letters spell, I'll just pull it up so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the curse, Yimach Shemo Zikro, the curse that where Yeshua is got his name erased and he's called Yeshu. Okay, the 4 names in the Talmud, Yinon, Menachem, Shiloh, and Hanina, and they spell Mashiach, Mem, Shin, Yun, Chet, comes to 191. So we can see this curse, may his name be erased in his memory, 643 plus 121, 764, which is 4 times 191. The rabbis left a coded message. The Moshiach is the one with his name erased. Okay, and then Yosef made himself known is also for 643. Okay, Yosef made himself known. So this again is a concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. These are all the things that we've got to be aware of. What YHWH has been doing. Why did he cause the Moshiach ben Yosef to have his name erased? What was accomplished through that? It's all about rectification of all humanity back up to our status in Gan Eden. Okay. So as we can see this, when Yosef made himself known to his brothers, is also related, the whole of it's also related to what we've just looked at, his name being erased. Okay, and it's also related to all these. That's related back to until the morning light. This is the most important thing though, isn't it? We've got to have a revelation of truth. So this is a squared ordinal of truth. Let me just see what we're looking at. The squared ordinal plus the ordinal. Squared ordinal plus the ordinal. So we've got truth, we've got in truth, be'emeth, we've got ha'emeth, the truth, and we've got wehemeth, and truth. This is one of the attributes of mercy, wehemeth, and this is also one of the attributes of mercy at the higher level. Give truth to Yaakov. Okay. So these are all the, the ways that truth is written in the Torah. If we add them all up together, it comes to 2,000. So this is the square ordinal plus the ordinal, square ordinal plus the ordinal, square ordinal plus the ordinal, square ordinal plus the ordinal. Okay, if we add them all up together, it comes to 2,839, which is 2 times 1,419. It's the truth that we need. We need to seek out the truth that gives us the truth regarding Od Yosef Chai. Yosef is still alive. It's all regarding the truth. Okay, so obviously the day and the progression of the day is very much linked to the way that YHWH has given us darkness that needs to then be transformed into a revelation of light. Just as the day begins with the night and then ends with the breaking of the day. The morning light. Okay, so I hope you can appreciate the significance. Truth is important. Truth is what overpowers the lie of the serpent. Truth is what is given to our soul, that represents Yaakov, to overpower the lie and the delusion that represents our body and out to Esau. And going back to those lepers, what is it that says this is a day of good news? And that word good news is exactly the same as basar, which also means flesh. This is good news to our flesh, that helps us to overcome the power of our flesh, our outer Esau, our outer nations, the evil inclination, the aspect of us that is easily deceived and deluded. This is news, and but if we wait until the break of the dawn before we share this good news of the day, we will incur guilt. So even though we're in a period of darkness, we've got to still be ready to share the good news. What good news? Od Yosef Chai. The good news that Yosef is still alive. We're telling the truth, and our lives are witnesses to this. And it's all connected to that leprosy again, isn't it? The Moshiach is called a leper, and I've gone through that. I've done teachings about the leprous Moshiach. You can look that up. In the Torah, in the Talmud, it also, at this same point where it mentions the 4 names of Moshiach, it then goes on to say, all the rabbis say that he's a leper from the house of Moshiach. His name is a leper from the house of Yehuda Anisi, the Rebbe Yehuda Anisi. Okay, so that's in Talmud Sanhedrin 98. Okay, and they're not saying he's a literal Mashiach. What they're saying is go look at the verses in the Torah about leprosy, and you will find hidden in there the concept of the Mashiach, the true identity of the Mashiach, and it's Yeshua, because Hu Tzaharath comes to 772. it is leprosy. This is what the Kohen has to pronounce. It is leprosy, and it comes to 386, 2 times 386, which is 2 times Yeshua. He is the one, but he's been marred more than anybody. He's suffering for our sins and for our sake, and it's YHWH that has allowed this to happen. So we've got to share this good news, because this is the truth that overwhelms the lie and the delusion. And the primary lie that we've got to overcome is the concept of the false Moshiach. Who and what we think the Moshiach is the very serpent that bites us all. And it's only when we reveal the truth about the Moshiach that is revealed in the mind of God, which is the Torah, and the whole concept in truth, not through our exilic lies and exilic mindsets that we've inherited from the exiled religions into which we've been born. We've got to break free of that influence and divest of our ego, divest of all those lies that boost our ego and cause separation instead of bringing unity. The Mashiach concept that the truth will always bring unity. Okay, so from the age of 20 and upwards, I go over this all the time, so I'm not going to go into any great detail now, but this is basically those that came out of Egypt, but it's also those that died in the wilderness. Okay, because they never made that full progression from redemption to full maturity, full spiritual maturity, because they never transformed the darkness from the darkness that it was into light, into a revelation. And we know that because this is 201, which is the ordinal of the verse, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Okay, and I've pointed out this loads. The first 2 words, "and God said, let there be light," comes to 575, which is exactly the same as the regular for evil inclination. Okay, which is the force of the serpent within all of us that deceives us and predisposes us towards our lusts rather than our soul's desire. Okay, the second 2 words then, "let there be light," and "there was light," comes to regular of 470, which is exactly the same as Amalek, doubt. This is the worst, most harshest enemy of the children of God. The Amalek attacked just as they were leaving Egypt. So you've got this whole concept of doubt, and you've got this whole concept, doubting what? Doubting the name YHWH, doubting the truth, Od Yosef Chai. Okay, these brings us, that is sufficient enough to bring us doubt, because we can't thoroughly interpret reality without the truth, Od Yosef Chai, and everything that means. The entire way that YHWH has been preparing the entire of humanity, and that he's been subjecting us to all these forces of evil in order for us to transform that darkness and evil into a revelation of his name. Okay, and it's a big challenge for humanity to accomplish this, to go through a rectification to be able to accomplish this. So we're fighting against the forces of doubt, and we're fighting against the forces of our own evil inclination. When we are subject to evil, we tend to imitate the evil rather than we should be imitating the name YHWH in his 13 attributes of mercy. We should be being kind, we should be being forgiving, we should be being truthful, all the 13 attributes of mercy. That's what we should be imitating. Subject humanity to evil, and we start to imitate the evil instead. Okay, and we suffer as a consequence of doing that. We don't draw down the light of truth into each situation to overpower it. We tend to be overpowered by the evil and the suffering that we're bombarded with. We need, like I said at the beginning, we need to draw down the truth of his name. Only he does good. We are only here to rectify the entire creation, to bring about a revelation of his name. How can I use this situation to bring about a revelation of his name, to reveal his glory in this situation? That's what should be dominating us. That's our soul's mission in this world. But we get overwhelmed by our body, our basar, which is related to that word good news, basar, basaroth, Tovoth, good news. We get a different kind of news informing us, don't we? Oh, look at all that evil over there. What can we do because of this evil? Oh, the only way to react, well, you know, they're all buying guns. Let's buy bigger guns. Let's buy more guns. They're doing this. Let's do worse. You know, we are informed by a different kind of news that incites our flesh to act in ways that are not godly and don't glorify the name YHWH. Okay, so from the age of 20 and upwards, they all perished because they didn't transform the darkness that they were subject to into a revelation of his name, which is the only light, by the way. So they never saw the dawn of a fully mature redemption. And this is what can happen. We can be redeemed people, but we don't attain spiritual maturity. We don't allow the name of YHWH to be fully revealed within us. Okay, so that's linked to all this. We can't reach that without the truth about YHWH in this situation, the Edomite exile into which YHWH has caused to descend the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, and we, through correctly interpreting the Torah, can bring about a revelation of the truth YHWH. Again, we've got this look: Tzedek v'shalom no shaku. Righteousness and peace have kissed. So that comes to 1191, the regular and the ordinal, up to there and up to there. Kindness and truth have met. So we've got the kindness and truth again. Chesed ve'emeth. We had that previously, didn't we? It's all about the same concepts going over and over again. Chesed and truth. We've got to draw down the truth, and we've got to focus on the name YHWH and the kindness that he's doing to us, even though we're trapped in exile, and the fact that he's given us a work to do in order to earn that revelation that he wants to bestow upon us. You know, we've worked very hard by the end of it, we will have worked very hard to reveal the truth, YHWH, and to certainly imitate that truth and reach full spiritual maturity. Because even when we're empowered with the truth, YHWH, and we are aware of everything that it means, the forces of our flesh are so severe that it's even difficult to then even empowered with the truth, it's very difficult to still subdue our flesh to the side of holiness, you know, and to reveal the name YHWH in every situation, in every thought, word and deed of our lives. It's very, very difficult to transmit that reality through our thoughts, words and deeds. You know, it's a work. It's so difficult to accomplish. Imitation of the name YHWH. Very, very difficult. When we attain it, we will have earned it. When we have reached that place of spiritual maturity, we will have earned that gift of bestowal, the bestowal of a revelation of his oneness upon us. And part of the fact that we've earned it, because this time of testing is so great, it's so difficult, the suffering is so painful, and the challenges are so difficult to overcome and transform from darkness into light. But that is part of the kindness, because we are tested to the maximum, because we were made in his image. And this is what is being tested, and we've got to be found faithful to that truth and not subject ourselves to the lie. Like we are evil when we're not. Our true identity is not evil. Our true identity is that we are truly good. And even our bodies are able to think, speak and do in accordance to a revelation of his name, rather than imitating the evil. We have that potential, and we should realise that potential more and more every single day. Right, we've got male and female, comes to regular and ordinal, 474. We've already gone through that number, haven't we? That's da'ath, knowledge, as in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's what needs to be rectified. That tree caused separation between the male and female divine. We've got to bring unification through true knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of YHWH that reveals the name YHWH. Okay, and this is connected to our supernal da'ath, our supernal knowledge, which is a balance between wisdom and understanding. And this is the realm of the Moshiach, if you like. I've talked about that quite a lot in previous teachings. But it's got a squared ordinal, of 1192. So I hope you can appreciate, if you add a Kalel onto 1191, then you've got 1192. A Kalel is adding Aleph to represent Alufo Shalom Alam, Master of the Universe. Together they also come to 1666. This is a very, very significant number because it's related to Yeshua, and it's also related to you shall not desecrate my holy name. Okay. I think I might just bring you a few of those up so you can have a look, because other than that, I think I've gone through those now. Yeah, I'll just bring you that up because it's a very, very interesting number. Just wait a minute. Okay, so let's bring this number up then. We've got this. YHWH, our God, is a jealous God. Okay, so the regular and the ordinal, both these is a very significant number, comes to 386, which is the same as Yeshua. The square ordinal is 1280. If we add them together, it comes to 1666. YHWH is jealous. Okay, he's jealous of what? He's jealous of the fact that we don't unite male and female together, and the male is represented by the day and the female is represented by the night, and he's very jealous about this because he knows that if we don't unite the concept of male and female, of night and day together, then we don't reveal his name, because his name is revealed from transforming that darkness into a revelation of light, and that comes via the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, who empowers us to do that, who empowers us to take this evil and transform it into a revelation of the name YHWH. You know, the old concept of the suffering servant and things like that transforms the darkness into light, the evil into good. Okay, and brings unity and true knowledge that overpowers the knowledge of the good and evil that we get from eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right. And he made him a fine woolen coat. So this obviously, again, it's Yosef, Moshiach ben Yosef. It comes to 1,477 regular, 190 ordinal, which comes to 1,667. So it's the 1,666 plus the Kalel. You know, YHWH hid himself in this, and adding the Kalel, it's the concept of YHWH hidden, the Master of the Universe hidden, even in the darkness, and I've talked about that a lot in my teachings. Okay, and even in the hidden. So that's why if we add a Kalel, we can always add a Kalel, because YHWH is always hidden, even especially in these situations where it's regarding Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, and then we've got Yeshua, the regular of his second filling out for his name, where the Vav is filled with an Aleph. Okay, so this is Yeshua, his name spelled out Yud Shin Vav Ayin to the second filling, comes 1,346 plus 220 comes to 1,666. He's very jealous for the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef and the truth regarding Moshiach ben Yosef, because through that his name is revealed. In truth, you shall not desecrate my holy name. 1,666. What has happened? His name has been desecrated. The name of the Moshiach has been desecrated, and because the name of the Moshiach ben Yosef has been desecrated, we can't see the name of YHWH, because the concept Moshiach ben Yosef reveals the name of YHWH, and the end of the cycle of Moshiach ben Yosef, the final revelation of the cycle, is 999 footsteps. We've got to work below to reveal the truth regarding Moshiach ben Yosef and the name of YHWH to be revealed through the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, and then that final revelation comes from above. It comes, and it is the final revelation is the last footstep, the 1,000th footstep is Moshiach ben David. Okay, the Moshiach is his name. YHWH is one, and his name is one. His name is the Moshiach, so we've got to get the Moshiach right, and then especially the name of the Moshiach. And then we've got this look, 1,856 is 8 times 232, which is 8 times Ye, or the regular of let there be light. Okay, because why? Desecrating his light desecrating his name, desecrating the concept of the Moshiach, reducing the Moshiach down to what's written in Talmud, Yeshu boiling in a pot of excrement. He's desecrating the holy name of YHWH, and you have to find the truth hidden in those lies. You know, find the truth hidden in lies and interpret Torah in a correct way, in accordance to what YHWH has been doing in this world, which is only utter and absolutely glorious. If we've got anything other than that before us, then that is going to stop us from perceiving the truth. That there's only YHWH, nothing else beside him. It came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh was dreaming, and behold, it was 1666, again, Moshiach ben Yosef. And this is after his 2 years, extra years to correct faith, just as Moshiach ben Yosef, Yeshua, is suffering 2,000 years for us to correct our faith in the name YHWH. Talk about it a lot. So 1666 plus the regular 334 comes to 2,000. 2,000 years of suffering of Moshiach ben Yosef in exile. But his time of suffering is nearly at an end. You know, and the revelation of the truth is going to be revealed, and when we have got a complete revelation of Moshiach ben Yosef, then we will usher in the reign of Moshiach ben Dawid. Okay, and with that I will say Shalom, peace.